glad we can remind him of his promises? Aren't you glad? Give the Lord a hand clap this morning. Amen. We bless you.
Your dwelling place, O Lord Almighty, for my soul longs and even faints for you. For here my heart is satisfied within your presence. I sing beneath the shadow of your wings. There is one day in your court, there is one day in your house, there is one day in your court that now shall stand. There is one day in your courts, there is one day in your house, there is one day in your courts, and 1,000 elsewhere, and 1,000 elsewhere. One thing I ask, and I would seek, to see your beauty, to find you in the place your glory dwells. One thing I ask, and I would seek, to see your beauty, to find you in the place your glory dwells. There is one day in your courts, there is one day in your house, there is one day in your courts, and 1,000 elsewhere. There is one day in your courts, there is one day in your house, there is one day in your courts, and 1,000 elsewhere. My heart and flesh cry out for you, the living God. Your spirit's water to my soul. I've tasted and I see. Come once again to me. I will draw near to you. I will draw near to you. There is one day in your court, there is one day in your house, there is one day in your courts, and 1,000 elsewhere. There is one day in your courts, there is one day in your house, there is one day in your courts, and 1,000 elsewhere. There is one day in your courts, there is one day in your house, there is one day in your courts, and 1,000 elsewhere. There is one day in your courts, there is one day in your house, there is one day in your courts, and 1,000 elsewhere, and 1,000 elsewhere.
You know what? One day we'll be singing that for 1,000. 1,000 elsewhere. 1,000 years. Bless you. Bless you. Bless you. I want you to think about the words of this song this morning as we
the oceans rise and thunders roar, I will soar with you above the storm. Father, you are king over the flood. I will be still and know you are God. Rest my soul in Christ alone. Know His power in quietness and trust. When the oceans rise and thunders roar, I will soar with you above the storm. Father, you are king over the flood. I will be still and know you are God. When the oceans rise and thunders roar, I will soar with you above the storm. Father, you are king over the flood. I will be still and know you are God. I will be still and know you are God. I will be still and know you are God.
Father, we bless you this morning. Father, we're just so thankful that we get to be here this morning to worship you. Father, not looking over our shoulder who's following us. But Father, that you've granted us a freedom to be able to come and to worship you.
I'm telling you the whole thing. This is just some of the things he did. He would dip them in hot wax, tie them to a tree, and light them on fire. There was a time in this country that they were planning concentration camps for you and me because we were gay. If you don't know that, you need to read up on that. This country was set to put gay people in concentration camps. Yeah. So every time we get to do something and every time we get to go to church together and we can hold hands or we can be husbands with somebody else or wives with somebody else, we can be that who we are. We need to be reminded that if things had taken a bad turn, we could have been there. Could have been there. But these people here were in a horrible, horrible place. Horrible place. But the whole point is that this book is to encourage people who are going through trials. And I'll tell you something. I had a teacher when I was going to ORU in Tulsa. This professor of mine said, you're either going into a trial, you're in a trial, or you're coming out of a trial. He said your whole life is going to be an ebb and sway of just living life. Nobody lives like this. I don't know anybody. I've lived a long time. I've never met anybody who has a constant, seemingly perfect life because it's not made like that. If you are going up against someone and our goal is to be spending time with God, well, I got news for you. You have an enemy, and that enemy is going to kind of do everything he can do to keep you from believing that God is there. So you're going to have struggle. And that's what Paul is writing about. So let's take a look at 1 Peter 1, and let's take a look. This is kind of his introduction to the letter here. It says, this letter is from who? Peter. An apostle of Jesus Christ. I'm writing to who? Who's he writing to? First off, are you God's chosen people? Are you God's chosen people? Yeah, you are. He's writing to God's chosen people. I am writing to God's chosen people who are living as, foreigners in the province of Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia. And he's writing this because those were the centers of where all this persecution was coming from. But I want you to look at the word that I've underlined. Foreigners. And I asked Missy, I said, Missy, what does this word right here, how do you pronounce that word? This is the word for foreigners in Greek. Paradimas. And I have to think about it. I've got it written down, syllable. Paradimos. The accent is on the D mus. Paradipimus. Anyway, that's it. Trust me. And it means exiles, sojourners, aliens, strangers, and it repeats the word foreigners in it. He's talking to a group of people who are alive and well, and they're in a country, they're being persecuted, but he's calling them foreigners. And he's speaking to you today. He's calling you a foreigner. He's talking to the chosen people of God. These are foreigners. These are people who are not here. In other words, he's saying, you know what? This existence that we are here today, this is not our home. This is not our home. We are foreigners. We are foreigners in a land that's different. You are a heavenly creation, but you are spending some of your time right here, right now. That's what you're doing. You don't live here. This isn't your end goal. We're going on someplace else. Because you're not from here, you don't live from here, you know what? We should not live like the rest of the world. We should not be like the rest of the world. We should be different. We should be different. But unfortunately, I know a lot of Christians that, are they Christians or not? They don't really give off the different part about who we are. They live their life so close to the edge of being normal that they're not. So we really have different values. We should have different values. We should also have different standards. Our standards of belief, our standards of life should be different. We should stand out. We should. And we should also have different goals. Our vision, our goal should not be like the rest of the world. That's what Peter is saying. He said, you should be different. You should stand out as if you were a foreigner. You shouldn't be able to say, oh, it's like those of us been to Hawaii. When you go to Hawaii and you buy one of the Aloha shirts, you're the only one wearing that Aloha shirt. I promise you. Only the foreigners to Hawaii are wearing the Aloha shirts, because everybody else is wearing normal clothes. Does not, but that's what you wear when you buy one. So this is a little bit of the preface to where we're headed today. So let's take a look. First off, today, next 4 weeks' messages. Next Sunday is on values of an unholy culture. That's what we happen to be living in, is an unholy culture. Then we'll talk about our calling in a dark world. You are called out of the darkness into what? Into the light. You're called out of that. Because we're not supposed to be like that. We're not supposed to be over here. We're supposed to be different. We're foreigners. We're just passing through this time period. Last is the perspective in persecution. Because whether or not we are persecuted. You know, you can be a Christian and not be so persecuted. You can be gay and call yourself a Christian, and you will be persecuted. In most circles. Because they think that you can't be both. But my Bible says, whosoever. It doesn't say whosoever except. It says whosoever calls upon the name of the Lord shall be what? Saved. So that's what my Bible says. If there says something different, then they need to get with it, get it right there. But today's message title is called Faith in Trials. So let's take a look. Are trials bad? Doug? Dr. Doug? Not necessarily. How many have ever felt like you were just feeling like you were coming down, and that's the way I told, I don't know, Keith could probably tell it. I told Jeff after I got off the phone, and that night we were crawling to bed, I said, I feel like I have just been in a pressure vise with the vise just squeezing from every direction, just feeling like I'm being compressed almost down to nothing. And I told him, I said, you know what? I have a right to teach this. I have a right to teach this as if I were Peter standing before you, that no matter what your trials are, God is going to see you through those, and you'll look back at that and you'll go, why was I so upset? I was telling Doug and Missy this morning that Monday night, before actually starting this job on Tuesday, it flashed back to me 20 years ago when I first started speaking for the university, that how nervous I was that night before that, of getting up and lecturing for 6 hours every day. How nervous I was about not knowing exactly what this is going to look like and how this is all going to turn out. I didn't know what it was going to be like. And that's what I felt myself feeling like on Monday night. I didn't know what it was going to look like. What was it supposed to be? They threw you a bunch of stuff and said, here, build something. Well, what's it supposed to look like? We don't know. Just do it. But I got news for you. God will see you through. God will see you through. If you're not in a trial, you're not going in one, I promise you you're coming out of one. But I want us to take a look over here at 1 Peter, and let's take a look right here. These verses here are going to be kind of the nutshell of everything we talked about today. So Peter is writing to these people that have been under persecution. He says, so be truly what? Keith, what did he say? He said, be truly glad. There is wonderful what? Joy ahead. Even though you must endure many trials for a little while, these trials show that your faith is genuine. So he says, be truly glad. I think, how can you say to somebody who's really going through it, I want you to be truly glad about this? I was telling Doug this morning that my third daughter is in the hospital. And this is not the first time. She's unfortunately had COVID earlier, and as a result, the COVID post is not a pretty sign for some people. And for her, it caused her blood clotting, which is a serious condition. I mean, she's in the hospital, IV, intravenous, blood thinners, trying to help her through once, and she's back in the hospital again with the same thing. And it was hard for me to tell her, I said, baby, it will be over soon. Now, I had to remind her, and you've heard me tell this story about Six Flags, and we got on Flashback for the very first time. And those of you who have not been to Flashback, you should go just to experience it one time. Have y'all been there? Yeah. You have? Yeah, okay. So, the two oldest girls, Charity and Spice, were in a little car together. Melody and I were in the car, and my former wife was in the car with Abigail, our youngest. These were their little people. And we got on that ride, and we just, boom, flash through this, and you do a couple of loops, and then you back up, and you're hanging here. And Melody looks at her, Daddy, 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 I want off. And my comment to her is, you will be off in about 30 seconds. as we zip through again. And I reminded her, I said, remember how anxious and how nervous and how, it was just awful? It will be just a little while. It won't be long. It won't be long. It won't be long. But let me ask you something. He says something here. He says, these trials show that your faith is what? That your faith is what? Genuine. Well, how many have ever seen a counterfeit $20 bill? Now, I have. I've seen, unfortunately, way too many people pass them in an offering or something like that, unbeknowingly, I'm sure, to most people. But a $20 bill can be counterfeit. Have you ever seen a counterfeit $3 bill? No, because there's not a $3 bill. There's not a $3 bill. People are not going to make a counterfeit $3 bill. But Peter is talking about here, talking about what? A genuine what? So that if there is a genuine one, what else could there be? Could there be a false one? Yeah. If there is a genuine something, I promise you, there's going to be an opportunity that would there also be a false faith. A false faith. So I want us to take a look at what could be considered a false faith. I've heard plenty of people, being a pastor for 40 years now, I've heard a lot of people who have said, oh, you know, sure, I'm a Christian. Yeah, my mom was a Baptist. My dad was a Methodist. I was sprinkled as a little kid. We went to church, you know, at least twice a year, you know, Christmas and Easter. So, yeah, I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian. Does going to church twice a year, your mom and dad being raised in a church, does that make you a Christian? No, it doesn't. So that's what we might call a inherited faith. That's a faith because we think we get there because of generations being in the church. You don't get to church. You don't get to heaven that way. We don't get to heaven on our parents' good works. In heaven, there will be no grandchildren. You're not going to get to heaven because of the works of your parents. You know, when I was growing up, we went to First Baptist Church in Wichita Falls, and they went through a big building program, and they were going to build, first off, they were going to remodel the main sanctuary. So my parents gave a lot of money to rebuild the sanctuary. Only 2 years later, we had another pastor, who's now pastoring downtown here, come there and said, no, I want to build a new one. So we spent all this money over here, and then 2 years later they decided, oh, let's just build a great big old plant over here. And they did. And my parents gave again. Can I get to heaven because my parents paid all that money? Why not? Doesn't sound fair. We think we can get there because of other people. I was talking to a man on a plane, had my computer open, and I do most of my studies on a computer, and I've got my Bible on a computer and all that kind of thing. Those of you who look for a good Bible computer, what do we look at? Bible Gateway is the best. And I had it open, I was doing some searches on there, and the guy says, oh, is that a Bible? I said, yeah. He said, well, what do you do? I said, well, I'm a pastor of a church. He said, oh, and I was telling Doug this morning, the moment you tell somebody that you're a pastor, it's like instant, they want to tell you everything in their whole life real quick, just in case they're going to die tonight on the way home. It's like they're confessing. And I told Doug, I said, I've heard too much from too many people for the life of me. People they just want to dump all their stuff on me. And I'm going like, you know what? You don't need to do that with me. You just need to do that with God. But it's all because people think that they can get to heaven on their parents' good works. We might say that there is something right here. It says that this faith is genuine. I can't get there because of my parents or my grandparents. I can't get there because of anything that someone else has done. I have to get there on my own merit, and that's because I have a relationship with God. I have a relationship with Jesus Christ. That's my doing. My doing. So, false faith? Yeah, we think that there could be an inherited faith. That's a false faith. Or there is a shallow faith. A shallow faith. Most of you remember the story of the sower. We're going to take a look at it. The farmer sows the word. Some people are like seed along in a path where the word is sown, and they hear it. Satan comes and takes the word away from them immediately. This is NIV, that's why it's different. Others, like seed sown on rocky places, hear the word and at once receive it with joy. They're all, man, that's the best stuff since sliced bread. It's really, really good. And it goes on. But since they have no root, shallow, they last only a short time. When trouble, persecution, trials come because of the word, they quickly fall away. Still others, like seed sown among thorns, hear the word, but the worries of this world, the deceitfulness of wealth, and the desires for other things come in and choke the word, making it unfruitful. Others, like seed on good soil. Everybody say, I'm good soil. Say it again, I'm good soil. I'm good soil. Hear the word, accept it, and produce a crop, some 30, some 60, and some 100 times what was sown. But Mark is talking about here, he's talking about the fact that some people hear the word and they're so glad, they're so jacked up about it, and they're so enthralled with the word, but the moment that trouble comes, the moment that trouble comes, the worries of life begin to choke out that word, and they forget it. and they walk away. They walk away. You know, people, tell me all the time. I had a young waiter one time who said, I used to go to church. I still do, but I don't get there as often as I used to. Last year, I think I got there twice. That's what they said to me. I got there twice. And he says, right now I'm just busy with school. And he says, I've got my student loans to pay off, and I've got to really work hard, so I've got to work on Sundays. I've got my car payment. I've got a girlfriend, da-da-da-da-da-da. And he says, I'm just so, I really party too much, and, I smoke pot. I'm going like, what are you telling me this for? Shallow faith that doesn't have any root in it. Paul's talking about the reason why people don't endure hard times is because their faith is not in the right things. Not in the right things. The third kind of false faith, inherited and shallow, is conditional faith. Now, I know you've heard people like this. I know you've heard people. I am going to go along with God as long as things go along for me. It was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, we talked about COB. We talked about crisis of belief. Crisis of the belief. If, for instance, if I didn't have a good faith in God and Melody was in the hospital now twice and we prayed her out once and she's back in there again, I'd say, all right, where's God in this? God, you're not doing this right, so I'm going to stop believing in you. If you can't fix this, I'm just going to stop believing you. And it's conditional. We try to put a condition on whether or not we believe, when in reality, you cannot do that. You can't do that. Trials are testing your faith. God, first off, I want to make sure that everybody understands this, God does not send those trials your way. God doesn't do that. God does not tempt nor try. He doesn't do that. But what he does do, he helps us through that. If we will just listen and participate with him, he will see us through. But oftentimes people are doing too much of this, saying, if things don't turn out right, I'm just not going to believe. Trying to get God over a barrel. Can't do that. Can't do that. So how does God use these trials when we have them? How many of you have ever really had a trial? Something you didn't know how things were going to happen. I know I have. I know Doug has with your health. Cancer survivors, they feel that. First off, a trial, what will it do? It's going to reveal your faith. It's going to reveal whether or not you have faith. And I've got a little phrase. You might want to take this. I'll put it up here for you. But this is something that we read a while ago. But I dimmed out trials because of these. It says, trials show that your faith is what? These trials will show that your faith is genuine. It is genuine. Take a look here. This is the statement that you might want to just remember. A faith that has been tested is a faith that can be trusted. I trust Jeff. I trust him. And the reason I know I trusted him is because I've given him the right for my DNR. That is faith. You and I both know that's faith. Yeah, it's faith. I've given him the right to pull the plug if something ever happens to me. We've talked about that. He's much, much younger than I am. I want him to feel free to do the things that he feels in his heart to do. What date? September what? 3rd. Did you get your marriage license? Would you speak to these people? What? Yeah. No. That was Mark and that's Robert and Brian. Robert and Brian have been married. Were together 20 some odd years before they got married. You guys are too much. Faith that has been tested is faith that can be trusted. I trust him impeccably with my life, my health, all of my finances. He has access to it all. He could walk tomorrow. I don't have to worry about that. Because I have faith in him. I have faith in him. These trials show that your faith is genuine. Now, look here. We're going to take a look at this just for a moment. This is Jesus speaking to Peter. Simon, Simon, Satan has asked to sift how many of you? Look at that next word. What is it? All. Satan has asked to sift all of you. See, I've heard pastors forever say that it's only Peter that he wanted to sift. But it would be pointless only to sift one of the disciples. Jesus is saying he has asked to sift all of you as wheat. He turns that. Only one other time has he said this. Remember when he was out in the water? All the guys, the storm was coming, and Jesus said, Peter first asked, said, Master, if it be you, bid us to come. And we talked about that word, us. It isn't just me, it's everybody that's in this boat. But Peter was the only one that did what? Put his foot out over the water. So we know that Peter's got some faith. But he says right here, but I have prayed for you, Simon. I prayed for you specifically. Why? That your faith may not fail. Did Jesus already know him? Did Jesus not already know that he was going to deny him? Yeah, he already, even here, he knew that. He said, Simon, I pray that your faith will not fail. And when you have returned, when you have come back, when you have turned back, strengthen your brothers. When you have come back from this horrible place. Jesus already knew that Simon is going to be plunged into a place in his life that he is going to regret every moment of that time. Jesus already knew that the struggle that he was going to have was going to be so great, but he says, I know that when you come back from all this, strengthen those around you. Strengthen those people. So when we go through struggles, when we go through times that are difficult, and we make it through on the other side, that's the time to strengthen other people. Say, you know what? I had a similar situation like you did, and I made it through. I know that God's going to see you through too. That's what Peter's doing. He is encouraging those people whose lives are right on the bench of being put to death, waiting. Just waiting. You know, Peter in his early years, let's take a look at this just for a moment. Peter in his early years, he was obnoxious, impulsive. We see that even on the night that Jesus is betrayed. He takes his sword, and what does he do? He wants to lop off the ear of the guy that's coming after Jesus. We know that he doesn't think very long. Don't put a gun in his hand, because he's likely to use it. He's cocky. He's inconsistent. We see that, you know. He has told a little girl, remember the story? Jesus has been crucified, and a little girl says, oh, didn't I see you with the master? Didn't I see you with the master? He says, no, not me. He's so inconsistent that he does go ahead and he does deny Christ 3 times before the cock crows that next morning. He is horrible. Then suddenly, years later, we find that this guy is devoted. He's patient instead of impetuous. He is bold. He is everything else. And we find out that on the day of Pentecost, 50 days from this first time when he denies Christ, 50 days later, he is the guest speaker that God puts in front of the whole church, the new church. And the day of Pentecost begins with Peter's speech. He is the man of the hour. But we see that he didn't get to be the man of the hour just because he was chosen. No. We see that this guy has been put through all kinds of living hell and struggles, and he comes out on the other side, just as Jesus prayed for him. And that's what Peter's telling us today. So you know what? I am seeing you go through these struggles and these trials, but you too will come out of it. And you know what? I can't say that my life is near what Peter's has been. Never. I can't say that, because Peter's life was literally hell. Literally hell. James has something to add here. Let's take a look here. He says, consider it what? Pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you, what? Face trials of many kinds. Because you know that the testing of your faith produces what? Perseverance. Yeah. We're going to hang in there because we know that if we just hang in there, we're going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete what? Not lacking anything. Trials and struggles and hard times, folks, are things that happen. They are going to happen to the best of every person. They're going to happen. David, they're going to happen. They're going to happen. Things are going to happen. Things that they don't want to go through. I didn't want to go through Monday. Just to get to Tuesday. Just to get to something else that go, oh, I don't know how this part that they made us learn has anything to do with this part now, but this part now is the part that I'm loving. But I had to go through all of that CRAP to get to here. And some of you may have to go through there too. Some of you may have to go through there. So you know what? I know that people's lives are wrecked with pains, but I'm going to promise you, as I did Melody last night, I said, baby, I know it's hurt. I know you're hurting. I know you're hurting. But it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. The other thing that trials do, they will draw you closer to God. Reminding yourself, I never said that God caused these, but I promise you that God will use every pain that you've ever gone through, will go through in your whole life to get you closer to Him. God never wastes a hurt in our lives. It will produce something. Look over at 1 Peter 8. He says, you know what? Folks, you love God even though you've never seen Him. You love God even though you've never seen Him. Though you do not even see Him now, you trust Him. And you rejoice with a glorious, inexpressible joy. He's used this, Peter used the word glad. You're going to be glad. And he's using the word joy here. You're going to have this inexpressible joy. The reward of trusting Him will be the salvation of your soul. Good news. Good news isn't that God's going to save you from your trials. That's not the good news. The good news is that He's going to save you from your sins. That's the good news. Trials are going to happen to everybody, whether you're saved or not. The devil's a real live devil because we've got a real live God. And they both have their goals in life. One is to save us and to give us joy unspeakable, full of glory. That's our life. And the devil is seeking to destroy you at every turn. At every turn. There are real goals in play. Real goals in play. But I'll tell you something. This is what I want you to remember from today. My faith isn't based on what I see. I promise you that. My faith is based on who God is. And the point is, who do you think God is? Is God a promotion? Is God getting you well? Is God getting you out of a legal fix? Is God doing this for you? Or is God just another Santa Claus that's going to treat you like one of the kids who's going to make sure you get all your little basket full of goodies? That's not who God is. God who is going to take me from this earth in the splitting, the word in Greek is ananatimo, in the splitting of a second of time, I will be here, and the next blink, I will be there. That's where my trust is. That I know that all of these things that I'm going through, all the things that you go through in life, you know what? We are just here for a blink in time. I'm just a foreigner passing through. I have to make an unfortunate stop in Charlotte. This is Charlotte. Those of you who don't fly a lot, you don't understand that. Bryce flies for American, works with American. He knows what I'm talking about. It's unfortunate that if you're coming back from the East Coast and you've missed that direct nonstop flight, that you will be going through Charlotte, I promise you. The best of flyers, the best of flyers. I just want to let you know, God loves you beyond your wildest imagination, beyond your comprehension. You cannot wrap your mind around how big our God's love is for us. You cannot comprehend how much he cares. And sometimes we fail to remember the big picture because we're going through this little bitty trial right here. It may be immense to us, but right now, compared to the ability of God's love for you and his expressed love, because he said, you know what? You're going to spend eternity with me. Just remember that. That is that inexpressible joy. That is what it is to know that gladness is coming, because you know what? I'm going to make it through today. I'm going to make it through tomorrow, and I'm going to let perseverance have her perfect work, because I'm going to spend the rest of eternity with a God that loves me, bar anyone else's word, because that's the trust that I have. So let's pray this morning. Heavenly Father, we bless you this morning, and we thank you that we have this opportunity to come together this morning to worship you, to be a part of your kingdom, your love for us. Father, I just pray right now that everyone recognizes how big you are. Bigger than the vast domain that we are on a little marble in the midst of. How big your love is for us is that overwhelming. Heavenly Father, we love you with all of our hearts this morning. And Father, our trust and our faith and our assurance is in you. And we keep that.